Hey there, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's live. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and I'm excited to be here today to share some creative ways to use the Everyday Arches dies. All right, now these arch dies are part of a larger collection. They can be found in the online exclusive section of the Stampin' Up! Website, but I will have them listed in the supply list below as well. You can get them as a bundle with the Everyday Arches stamp set. There is some fabulous patterned paper that goes with this suite, a spool of ribbon, and some two-tone sparkle gems as well. So today we're not going to actually use this stamp set. We are going to use some of this paper, some of the embellishments, but I've chosen to use this particular stamp set. It's called With You in Mind. It is from the January to April mini catalog, and I loved the big greetings in this stamp set, and it hadn't seen a lot of love yet. I think I had only used it once before I designed this live, so I decided to pull it out and give it some love just in case it retires, because we are nearing the end of this catalog and it's very possible that it might retire. All right, so those are the two main products that I'm focusing on. I'm going to share some fun ways that you can use these dies, but I will be mixing in a few other products as well. All right, okay, let me just check the lighting here before we get started. Let's see. Is this better? Okay, that's a little bit better. All right. Good morning, good morning. Welcome. Okay, so I'm going to set this stuff aside. I will need the dies, so I'll leave those here. Okay, so first up, even though I said we were going to use that DSP, we are pulling in a different pattern paper for the first project. So this is a pattern paper from the annual catalog, and to be honest, I've had it almost since the annual catalog released back in May of last year. I think I purchased it in June, and I had not yet used it before planning this project. So it was time to pull it out. It's super cute paper. It is the Lily Pond Lane DSP. It's a 6x6 pattern paper. So there's some fun, like koi pond kind of fish, some ducks, some little scenery images, lily pads, and then on the back, it's kind of like just more generic patterns. And that's the side that we're using today. So that's the paper that we're using. And what we want to do, let me pull out my pieces here. So I pre-cut some of the things just to kind of speed things up. So let me share what I've done. I've chosen two patterns that coordinate nicely. So I could use these two. I could use these two. Actually, I might use these two. No, I think I'm going to use these two. We're going to go with these ones. And I have cut two of them using the third largest arch die. Okay, now if you don't have the Everyday Arches dies, if you've got other arch dies in your collection, you could use those. For this first project, this works best with arch dies. It's possible you could do it with something else, but you might have to get a bit creative. The other thing that I did was I cut a smaller one using some white, or from some white cardstock. And I think this is the fifth smallest. Let me just make sure I've got it right. Just from some white cardstock. Okay, so that's what I've pre-done. I've got my scrap to stamp on. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a little gift card holder by combining two, actually I think I'm going to do it this way, two of these arch dies to create a heart. Isn't that cute? So cute. And we're going to create a little gift card pocket. This would also be great on a scrapbook layout to hold a journaling card. Let me just see here. Actually, I think I'm gonna do this. No, I think it'll be too busy if I do that one. We're gonna do it this way. Okay, so yeah, you could use it on a scrapbook layout. It would be great for a journaling pocket, or maybe to hold some ephemera or extra photos that you've got. So what you want to do is you want to add adhesive here and here. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to add adhesive along this side, and I'm just using a narrow bead of multi-purpose glue, and then I'm going to do down this side. Now these dies do have some stitching, so I'm going on the inside of the stitching just so that the glue doesn't seep out through the stitches. All right, so we've got that and that. So now we've got a little pocket here. We're going to set that aside and let it set while we do some stamping. Okay, and again, I'm using the With You in Mind stamp set. For this particular card, we're going to turn this into a birthday card. So we're going to use this Happy Birthday, which is a great big bold greeting. I'm going to use Pretty Peacock ink, which is one of the main colors in this DSP. And I'm going to stamp the Happy Birthday. I know, Layla, these dies seriously are some of my favorites. And you guys have probably guessed that because I don't know how many projects I've created and even classes. I have done a scrapbook class. I've done a card class. Laura and I are doing this month's card class to go focused on the, what's the name of this? The Everyday Arches bundle as our class. It's such a fun die set. I hope it never retires. I seriously love it so much. They're just so versatile. And it's kind of something, it can be used on anything, really. Okay, so I've got that stamped out. Now I could leave this, like just trim this down a little bit and leave it as rectangular. And if you are not a fan of fussy cutting, I'd recommend that you do that. But you know me and my fussy cutting. I've gone ahead and I fussy cut the word birthday and then just cut out the happy just in a rectangular shape. And then I took some white woven ribbon, I think it's called. Let's see here. Let me pull it out so I can show you. It is called white woven ribbon. So this is what it looks like. So it is about half an inch. Yeah, it's half an inch wide. I wrapped some gray granite twine around it. And I'm going to just snip it so it's a little bit shorter because the ends are a little long. Let's trim these. Okay, and then we're going to decorate. So we're going to put this on first. And I've got some glue dots left over from a kit that I've been working on. I'm just going to add a couple of these on here. Position that on there like that. And then we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of this. And I'm going to add a mini glue dot on this part here. Let's see what part of it is going to sit on that. We'll do it right here, just because it's going to sit. This already has some height to it, and I want it to stick to that, but I don't want to give it additional height. Okay, well, that's going to go on here like that. And that's a little crooked. Let's make it straight. Okay, and then we're going to add this on flat. So I'll just add a little bit of glue on here. We'll lift up this twine and we're going to put it right here. Like that. And then this is just going to tuck in here. That's going to be where you can write your message. So you can put it kind of like this. You can put it like this. And then if you've got a gift card, then you can tuck your gift card in here as well. And you've got a super cute gift card holder. Now, if you wanted to turn this into a card, you could stick it onto a larger card. Like it would fit, it's smaller than 6x6. So you could add it to a 6x6 card or even 5.5 by 5.5, I think it would fit. Yeah, it would still give you a little bit of a border. So if you wanted to turn that into a card, but I think it's super cute, just like this. You've got a little gift card holder. You've got a space to write a message. So here are a couple other ones that I've created using the same paper pack, just different patterned papers. So this one uses the little koi fish, and then this one has, I think these are little, maybe like little dragonflies, I'm not sure, but a little bit more neutral, that one there. So super cute, really easy to make, and a creative way to use those arch dies. All right, now moving on, we're going to create a card, and I'm going to share a fun way to use these dies. So let's see, pull out my pieces here. So this time we are going to use the Everyday Skies DSP. So this is the pattern paper that is part of this collection. And you can see I've die cut some things, and I'll go through that in a little bit. I'm just going to set those aside so we can work on our card base first. So you'll notice that my card base measures 4¼ by 11, and it's scored at 5½ inches. So I don't normally cut my cards this way. I normally almost always cut my cards 5½ by 8½, scored at 4¼ But for this particular design, you do need to have this longer, narrower card to do this this idea. And we're going to take our largest arch die, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to fold along that score line, and I'm going to line this up in the center. So centered side to side, but I'm just going to fold this for now. We don't want to run it through when it's folded, but I'm lining up the inside edge of my die. Hopefully this is clear. The inside edge of my die with the score line on my card. I wonder if I put it on this black background, if you can see it a little bit better. Okay, let me line this up. Okay, so it's going to be lined up like this. So can you see how the top part of the die is hanging off of the card front? Okay, but when we run it through, we don't want the card to be closed. We want it to be open because we only want to cut through this first layer. So I'm going to bring in my die cutting machine and show you how to line it up on your die cutting machine. All right, let me just cover my glue here. Make sure that this is all in camera. My well-loved cutting mats. Okay, so I'm going to slide this bit through, and I've got the inside edge, straight edge of this top bit lined up with my score line, and it's centered. So I've got an even border on both sides. And then I'm going to grab some washi tape just to hold it in place. I don't want it to move. I'll just grab some washi tape, make sure I've got it lined up nicely. That looks good. Just pop this on here, that on there. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to line up the edge of my cutting plate with the inside edge of that die, okay? Because I don't want to cut through it, otherwise I'm going to end up cutting the shape out, and I don't want to do that. I just want to cut my card front. So I'm going to feed this through, and it's sliding. Okay. Now I remember I struggled with this. Actually, you know what? I think I've got this backwards. I want to do it this way. Okay, let's do it this way. And then I did this so long ago that sometimes it's tricky to remember how you do things. Okay, so now I've still got it lined, the edge lined up, but I think it'll feed through better going this way. Let's give it a shot here. There we go. Okay. So now let's slide it through. Okay, now let's get this out of the way. And then we'll carefully peel this off. We don't want to rip. Oh, that's okay. It's going to get covered over. Peel this off. Okay, so now add that back onto my die set here. Okay, so now you can see that I've got that arch shape as my card front. So what I'm going to do is just take my snips and just trim up here to that cut line. You might have to tweak it just a little bit depending on how close you were. All right, and now we've got that beautiful arch shape as our card front. And you can create your card like this, or you can create it like this. We're gonna do it like this. Actually, maybe we'll do it like this because my sample is done the other way. So I'll show it to you both ways. Well, I guess it'll depend on my DSP though. We'll see. Okay, I'm just gonna grab my bone folder so I can fold this so it's nice and crisp. If you did have a little bit of tearing on your cardstock, that's okay. We're gonna cover it over anyways. Okay, now some of the other pieces that I have here, I have an inside layer, which is gonna go in here. So this piece, you'll find all the measurements in today's blog post, which we'll post shortly after I finish the video. But this piece measures, let me just check my notes here. It measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So I cut it just smaller than the size of the back of my card base, so that I have a little bit of white showing, and that just makes that pop a little bit more. Now I know it's tricky for if you want to write a message on a dark colored cardstock. So if you don't have like a white gel pen, it can be a little tricky, but we're going to add a little layer inside to solve that problem. All right. And then I've cut a piece of DSP. So this is the Everyday Skies DSP. Yeah, we can go sideways. And this was cut using the second largest die. And this is going to go in here like this. And then our card is going to open like that. So let's go ahead and assemble all our layers. So this is such a fun pattern. On one side, there's kind of all kind of sky, cloudy kind of patterns, and then, or nighttime kind of skyscapes. And then on the other side, it's, you know, just a little bit more generic where you can use it for lots of different things. I did share earlier this week on my blog, I think it's in Wednesday's blog post, I did share an idea of using the arches to create kind of a window and with the sky DSP in the background, looking out the window, which is super fun. Okay, so we've got that, and we can add this layer on the inside as well. And I am going to line this up with this top edge. So not put it in the center because otherwise we'll be able to see it here. I want it to be hidden. So I'm going to line it up with the top. All right. That looks like it's about centered. Okay, so there is our card base. Now we're going to take the thank you greeting. So we're going to turn this into a thank you card. We're going to stamp with Night of Navy ink. Oh my gosh, this won't open. There we go. All right. I put lotion on my hands before I went live, and now so everything is all slippery. All right. So we're just going to stamp this on here like that. And then, of course, that's going to get fussy cut just like we did last time. So I'm using these greetings the same way for the second card. This time I've used some silver edged sheer ribbon, wrapped it with some white twine, and then I've got my thank you. So we'll grab a couple mini glue dots. Okay, because we're going sideways this time, I just want to figure out, do I want to do it there? Or no, I think I want to do it here. We'll do it here. I'll add a couple of these on here. Position that on there, and then we'll add some dimensionals to this piece. We're going to cut some edges here. I'm still working on this massive sheet of dimensionals that we got in the last paper pumpkin kit. It was such a big sheet of dimensionals. Okay, and again, we'll add a mini glue dot. And then we'll use some flat adhesive for the U. Slide this underneath here. And then we're going to add some of our sparkle gems. These are so pretty. They're so sparkly, and they're almost like they're two-toned. They've got a little bit of purple in them, and a little bit of blue in them. We'll add 3 of these on here. And there is card number 2. So you can do it landscape like we've done here, or you can do it portrait like I've done here. Isn't that cute? So another creative way to use those arch dies. All right, moving on to project number 3. Pull out my pieces here. Oh, and the other thing that you can do, if you strategically cut your DSP, let me grab a piece of pattern paper and I'll show you. If you strategically cut your pattern paper, so this piece here measures, I think it's 3 3/4. So 3 3/4 by 5 to cut this piece. If you cut your 3 3/4 inch strip down this way first, then you've got enough left over that you can do an envelope flap to match, like I've done here. Okay, so that stretches your DSP just a little bit. All right. Okay, so this next project, we are going to do a little box. So last week or the week before, I played with the hexagon dies and I shared some creative ways to use the hexagon dies, or I think they're called, Stampin' Up calls them meant to be dies. But today we're going to create a box and use the arch dies. Okay, so what I've got done here, I've cut 2 pieces from Fresh Freesia. These were cut using the largest everyday arch dies. I've got a circle that I die cut using these fabulous Around It All dies. These are not for everyone. They're wonky circles. I think they're so fun. So I have used the 5th smallest Around It All dies, which is about 2.5 inch circles. So if you don't have these dies, if you've got something similar in size, that's fine. And your size will depend on the greeting that you're using as well. And then I'm using some of the Fresh Freesia seam binding ribbon, which was a celebration offering. So this is no longer available, but I have a ton of it, so I'm going to continue using it. And then I've got some white twine and then a little piece to stamp on. And then this piece is going to be for our box base. So it measures 5 3/8 by 6 3/4. And we are going to score it. So if you've got the 5 3/8 inch measurement at the top, we are going to score at 3/4 of an inch. And then we're going to flip it around and do 3/4 of an inch on the other side. And then we're going to put the longer length at the top and we're going to score it at 3 inches. And then rotate it around and score it at 3 inches again. So this is going to be a really narrow box. You can switch up your measurements depending on how thick you want your box to be. So our box is actually only going to be, I think it's 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch thick. So just, just to hold a couple little treats, maybe a tea bag and a chocolate, or a cookie and a tea bag, just something small. And then what I'm doing is I'm cutting a little V out of here. So I'm going to the right of the score line and then to the left of the score line, just a little bit. So rather than cutting right on the score line, I'm cutting from either side up. And that just helps reduce some of the bulk that you get when you fold. Okay, and then we're going to fold along all the score lines, make it nice and crisp. Now I am offering an ordering special. You can get all 3 of these kits. So all the consumable supplies for all 3 of these projects when you place an order with me of $60 or more using the host code, and I have the host code in the description. Then as a little thank you, I will send you these 3 card kits. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of adhesive. Let me think about this here. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of adhesive on here. And then we're going to fold this like this, making sure that it's lined up nice and square. And then I'm going to put some adhesive on this piece. And I like to use liquid adhesive, but you can use tear and tape. You can use our Seal Plus. Here, I'm just making sure that everything's lined up here. It won't be perfect here because remember we cut a little, we didn't cut it straight across, but this is the important part. You want it to line up at the top. Okay, and then we're just going to repeat that process on this side. So I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on this one, and then this one's going to fold in, and then we'll put adhesive on this one. I find that when you use liquid adhesive, you do need you just need a bit of time for it to set, but you have the flexibility to kind of slide it in place. So now we've got our box base, and we are going to do some stamping. So we're going to set that aside for now. We're going to bring in our 2 layers of Fresh Freesia, and we are going to use this little floral image that is in this stamp set. So you could use the stars, the hearts, the leaves, the cupcakes. You could use any of it, but I wanted to use the flower, and we're going to bring in our Fresh Freesia ink. So we're going to do some tone-on-tone stamping. And we're going to create our own pattern paper. So I'm just going to stamp this kind of all over. Okay, we'll do one more here. Not too worried about there because that's going to get covered over. And then we're going to do the back as well. And you'll see that I'm stamping off of the shape as well. This just makes it look like it's pattern paper. It was cut down to size. So not all of my images are confined within the shape. Okay. Oh, we're gonna still do some more stamping. So I'm gonna bring in my scrap piece, and I've got my Fresh Freesia ink. I've got a sponge dauber that is good for navy ink. I'm going to bring back my navy. I love Fresh Freesia and navy together. Such a beautiful color combination. Okay, and we're going to ink our flower with Fresh Freesia. Then we're going to dip our sponge dauber in navy and kind of go around the edges of our flower and stamp. And we're going to do that 3 times. And this just gives our flower kind of a two-toned image or two-toned look. I'll bring it up and show you a little bit closer. Okay, so can you see that just adds so much to the flower? It's such a simple technique, but it gives that two-tone look. So the tips of the flowers are just a little bit darker than the rest of the petal. Okay, and then we're going to bring in this circle. That's something on there. Okay, and we're going to ink up. Okay, we're going to do 2 different colors here. So because it's photopolymer, it's easy to do. I am going to ink the word wishes with Fresh Freesia. And then the word best with navy. So you can do this in 2 separate steps and mask off each of the words. But again, because it's photopolymer, it's really easy to just ink up just the portion that you want to. I'm going to huff on it. That just re-moistens that lighter color. And then we've got this great two-toned greeting. You could also use Stampin' Up markers for this technique as well. All right, so we've got all of our pieces here. I'm going to bring these two back. Now these, there are not dies. This is a standalone stamp set, so there are no dies that coordinate with this. So these flowers do need to be fussy cut, or if you don't like to fussy cut, if you've got a circle punch or die that is just slightly larger, that would work well as well. All right, so set that aside. I've got my 3 flowers cut out. I am actually going to decorate this front bit before I adhere my box. So, or adhere it to my box. I'm going to use some dimensionals. Put this on here like that. We'll grab a mini glue dot. I'm going to stick it right on there. And that's going to be for our little baker's twine bow. And then we're going to use some dimensionals on these. I'm going to use some pieces of dimensionals here. Some of these smaller end pieces. So that'll go right in there. And one of our flowers will go up here. I love that little pop of blue on there. Okay, and then I need a couple more smaller pieces here. Add another flower here, and one more here. Okay, and then we're going to finish off these flowers with some of these dots in the center. So I'm just going to use my fingers and just kind of curl up the petals as well. You can use your bone folder before you stick them down. So I'll use one big one and then 2 small ones in the center of the other flowers. All right, and there's the front that's decorated. So now we can adhere it to our box. I'm just going to use some multi-purpose glue. Position this on here. Just line that up so that it's right at the base. And then we'll flip it over, do the same thing on the back. So I designed my box so that it was quite high. You don't have to. You can do it so it's smaller, but I wanted my box to be a little bit on the higher side because I wasn't sure what I was going to put in it. So I'm just using my bone folder just to make sure that that glue adheres nicely on there so my box doesn't, or the panels don't pop off. And there's our box. So you can leave it like this. You can leave it open like this and tuck whatever you want inside. It gives you a little bit more flexibility to what you put inside. So it could be something that sticks up above it. Or what you can do is you can punch 2 holes and then feed your ribbon through it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in wrong punch. I'm going to bring in my 1/8 inch circle punch, and I am actually going to grab a pen, and I'm just going to make 2 marks. I'm going to cinch these 2 layers together because I want to go through both layers. And if you still want the look of ribbon, you can do this same idea and just punch it through one ribbon. But if you wanted your box to be open, okay, so I've got my 2 holes, take my seam binding, feed it through. Okay, there we go. Feed it through so that we've got nice even ends, and then we'll tie a bow. With a little bit of creativity, you can really turn almost any of your shapes into a box. I love having long ends on my ribbon like that. And there we go. There is our little box. Tweak that a little bit. Isn't that cute? So here is one. I have a little, one of my friends does things with, she makes like little feathers and things with like, what is it called? Macrame type thing. So I've got a little feather that she made tucked into there. So there is project number 3. So let me bring back the other 2 projects for you to see. So we've got, oh, it was this card. So we've got our thank you card, and then we've got, yeah, it was this one, our gift card holder. So 3 creative ways to use those everyday arches dies. We've got a gift card holder, a thank you card, and then a gift box. And then I've got a lot more samples here to share with you as well. These are projects that I've created for different, some of them for different events, some of them for blog posts. So this was the card that I mentioned that I shared earlier this week over on my blog. So you can see looking out the window, I created a little shelf, and then I have a couple things sitting on the shelf. So that's a simple way to use those arch dies. Here is another one where I use that largest die and cut through both layers so that it opens like that. Here is another version of the card that we created today, just using different DSP and ribbon. Here is another one that I shared on my blog a little while ago where I've created a little planter's box and then a little frame. Here's just the arch dies kind of layered together. And then, like I mentioned, Laura and I are using this collection. So these dies with this stamp set and then the coordinating DSP for this month's class to go. And I have linked in the description where you can find all the information for it. If you live outside of Canada, there is a tutorial only option, but here's a little peek at 3 of the 6 cards that we'll be making. This one's a little bit of a fun fold. All right, and registration for that one closes, oh, I should have checked the date. I think it might be the 16th. I'm not sure, but it's in the where you can find all the information. All right, so I hope I inspired you guys to pull out these everyday arches, or maybe if you don't own them, maybe it's something you want to add to your wish list. They are currently unavailable. However, they are due back in next week. All right, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fabulous weekend, and I will see you again next week. Take care.